In 1 week, Palworld has become the most played game on Steam, surpassing AAA releases, and the player count doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon. How did this happen? How has one indie game made by a relatively unknown studio become a worldwide phenomenon? This story starts with a man named Takuro Mizobe. Takuro was someone who loved games and in time would become a developer for Nintendo. He would work under Nintendo's DS development, and this is where he would hasten his development skills. In 2012, he would graduate from the Tokyo Institute of Technology, and at this point it was time for Takuro to make a name for himself in the gaming industry. However, Takuro would need money to live this dream, so he would join JP Morgan Securities later in that year. However, after being with JP Morgan for a while, Takuro would have built up a decent portfolio, and with now acquiring some money, he would now move on to some other projects. One of these projects was a virtual currency exchange called CoinCheck. Another of these projects was Pocketpair Inc., which was Takuro's very own gaming company. With the recent crypto boom, CoinCheck would increase its value tremendously, but bad news was to come, as in 2018, the company suffered a massive hack which saw the loss of over $500 million. This incident would be disastrous for CoinCheck, and the company would now be under investigation. It turned out the money was transferred through a total of 19 accounts, with CoinCheck originally stating they wouldn't be able to reimburse all the customers. But later CoinCheck announced that it would repay all 260,000 users which were affected by the severe cyber attack using the company's own capital. Takuro's early love for game development would eventually blossom into the company known as Pocketpair. It was reported that during Takuro's time at JP Morgan, he would work on a mobile game with a college friend. However, nothing is known about this mysterious game. Takuro would enact a habit of taking what worked in the gaming industry and work on games similar to those he deemed good. This would eventually lead to his first game, Nethergrave, a clone of Hollow Knight. It had similar designs graphically, and the game's overall style felt very similar. This trend would be prevalent in majority of Pocketpair's games, and their next project, Craftopia, would share many distinct features with Breath of the Wild, a Nintendo game. It is very obvious that Takuro takes very heavy inspiration from other popular games, and in Craftopia, the game essentially feels very similar to Breath of the Wild. Earlier this year, Pocketpair would release AI Art Imposter, which used AI as a core functionality of the game. This for some may raise suspicion that the company may be using AI excessively to create their game, especially with Mizobe tweeting stuff like, "I'm having so much fun creating crazy AI that I'm not making any progress at all." Furthermore, he would say, Pocketpair the result of introducing AI to improve business efficiency. Employees started to hand over all their work to AI, but the quality was so high that they were disappointed. So yeah, Pocketpair was most definitely using AI to create their games. But with Palworld, all of a sudden people are enjoying the game. So the question is, did AI help to create this game? And for that question, we don't actually know. For what I've seen, no evidence is supporting this argument or not. It's just highly likely in regard to the previous piece of information. Another raise for concern is that knowing how open Pocketpair were to their usage of AI in their previous games, it's a little odd that we haven't gotten any official evidence that it was used in Palworld. Takuro would say in a Wire Japan article with the English translation coming from John Cartwright, "I've always loved Nintendo games, and that hasn't changed. However, when it comes to making games, Nintendo has a strong philosophy of creating new and unique games with high quality. On the other hand, I have a deep-rooted desire for my work to be enjoyed by as many people as possible. If there are good ideas in the world, I pick them up, and I don't necessarily have to be particular about originality." AI itself is becoming ever more advanced, and this does raise a lot of questions. Does this mean that originality may become forfeit for AI? And it's scary for not only artists and game designs, Even YouTubers are now starting to become affected by the very usage of AI. It's scary knowing that your work can be easily disregarded and copied endlessly. It isn't known if the pals in Palworld have been made by AI, nor anything in the game for that matter. But what is known is the sometimes similar character designs, and I am of course talking about the very close relationship to the pals and to the Pokemon. Interestingly, Palworld isn't the first Nintendo copy controversy. Recently in 2020, Genshin Impact would release, having blazing similarities to Breath of the Wild. However, now it's kinda died down, and the game Genshin Impact still remains available to play. The question is, will Nintendo take legal action against Palworld? I don't want to really go on about this argument, as I believe it has already been done by many YouTubers. It comes down to the designs of the pals. Some strike very close similarities to actual Pokemon. A great video by Video Game Storytime explains what I believe is a great explanation of the situation. So, I will briefly go over what is happening. Before doing so, I am not a lawyer, so please take what I say with a grain of salt. Furthermore, don't have YouTube as your main source of information when it comes to legal advice. A patent in the form of copyright is an idea. For example, how a shoe should hold its laces. A trademark is the mark of your trade, an image or word in which people recognize your brand, and copyright is the right to make a copy. You can't copy ideas. An example in this case is Megami Tensei, as it predates Pokemon itself. So the idea of catching monsters isn't explicit to Pokemon. In this past year, games like Cassette Beast and Temtem and even Palworld have been released in this genre of games. Pokemon can stop you from making anything with the name Pokemon, as it is a trademark of Nintendo, and Pikachu's face or brand, as it is a trademark of Nintendo. A way Palworld avoids these rules is it doesn't use the name Pokemon in its title, and also doesn't feature Pikachu or any of the names of the Pokemon which are trademarked by Pokemon. The thing it does do is it brings very similar character designs to Pokemon, which may fail the squint test, which derives from a court case between Tetris and Xio Interactive over a Tetris clone. The game Mino was very similar to Tetris, so what ended up happening is the games were put side to side, and if the person viewing didn't need to squint to identify the similarity, it would fall under copyright. Also, the way the gameplay differentiates itself from classic Pokemon also acts in favor of Palworld. This is mainly due to the added level of violence the game portrays. So that is a quick summary of the legal side of the situation. Nintendo are now currently investigating this case and will come to a conclusion if they will pursue legal action, which may make tensions more complicated and could have devastating effects on the future of Palworld. But for the time being, the game Palworld remains available to play and is at this point in time the most played game on Steam, an impressive feat which the likes of hasn't been seen before. Palworld's release is truly genius. It was released at a time where not much attention was on gaming. Yes, we just had the GTA 6 trailer, but overall, gaming has been a little bland as compared to prior years. Lethal Company was a release which has kinda changed the way we view indie games, as at times they can literally outperform major AAA releases. With Palworld, it takes many popular gaming trends and mixes it into its own game. A fully open world survival monster catching game is something which we haven't seen before in gaming. The release of Palworld will definitely cement indie games as potential competition to AAA titles, which may make the standard of which games release be higher. As now it is clear that if your game is generally well made and fun, it will sell more as compared to junk being thrown together for the sake of hitting a deadline made by corporations. It also puts into question, is AI being used as a tool, or is it being used to create the majority of the game's assets? Which also raises the question, will games start to implement AI to the point where games feel like they are designed purely for pleasing fans with low effort releases? But that is a question for another day. For now, the sudden boom of Palworld has not only changed the way we view indie games, just like Lethal Company, it also has cemented that indie games are a force to be reckoned with. It's been Cracking Guy, and until next time, goodbye.